Hey guys, it's TRIZE here, and we're getting the most torque out of this tiny V10 engine. There's only a few more engines left to go in the V engine category, so anyways, for this engine build, the first thing you gotta do on the top left portion of your screen is you set the year by maximizing it to the year of 2020. And after you selected the V90 degree V10 engine configuration, you may select any of the 4 block materials you may choose from, which I'm going to select magnesium for the sake of weight. And for the bore and stroke under the family capacity section right here is you lower the bore to the lowest setting of 50 millimeters. Same thing for the stroke is you lower this here to the lowest of 40 millimeters, which gets the engine size for the family capacity at 787 cubic centimeters at frickin' Boeing levels up in here. With a dual overhead cam 5 valve, and again for the head materials, any 3 you may choose from. Again for the sake of weight, I'm going to choose aluminum silicon. And this quality slider, as you see right here, for the entire engine and everything else in general, maxes out to a plus 15 for everything. And right below the quality slider, with this little box right here that says the Sandbox Tech Pool, you click on this to open up this here window. And on the engine tech section right here, where it says plus 5 for everything, easy change the plus 5 for everything to a plus 15. So you do this for the engine in general, the bottom end, the top end, the turbocharger, the fuel system, and for the exhaust. After you got everything selected to a plus 15 for everything, click on Apply Changes and we'll head on over to the bottom end of this engine. So for the bottom end, first things first, with the varying capacity on the bottom left right here is you lower the bore again to 45 millimeters, and again with the stroke, lower this all the way down to the lowest of 28 millimeters, which gets the final engine size to 446 cubic centimeters. And the crank count rods and pistons right next to this right here. So for the crankshaft, it'll be the strongest of a billet steel, with the count rod set to the lightest and most durable of the lightweight titanium, and the piston set to a low friction cast to generate more power and torque. And finally, for the balancing mass right here, is you choose a none setting because a harmonic damper or balancing shaft, either of these two are not that necessary, and adding either of these two would lose a bit of power by doing so. For the compression, you set this to a fairly extreme level of a 14.7 to 1 ratio, with the cam profile set almost at a full-blown racing setting at a 93. The springs and lifters, you set this 4 clicks up from the default value to 50 to a 54. And we're going to be selecting VVT for all cams, and you set the RPM limit to a 10,500 RPM, which is a little bit less than my previous 2 engine builds. For the turbocharger, we're using a single turbo setup with a smart boost system with the intercooler size set to 144 horsepower. And we're using a standard geometry journal bearing setup instead of the usual ball bearing, with the compressor size set for the first option right here, the first box, at 58.0 millimeters. The second box with the turbine size, you set this to a 57.9 millimeters. The air compressor trim, the third box, is you set this to a 53. And lastly, for the boost, the fourth box, is you set this to a very high level of a 65.27 PSI. For the fuel system, I don't really need to explain this because it's the usual of a direct injection throttle per cylinder race intake with the manifold size set to a 21, which is a small boy up in here. What the fuel type we're going to be using is good old nitromethane, aka the dragster, funny car type of fuel that we're using. With the ignition timing map right below the fuel type, is you set this to a -5, which advances it as much as possible to increase power and torque. With the fuel mapping, is you set this to a fairly lean setting all the way down to a 26. And finally, for the headers, the exhaust, the rest of this good stuff here is you choose the tubular racing header with the header size set to a 37. With the exhaust diameter set to a 76.2 millimeters, which equals to about 3 inches. And the usual, no cats and no mufflers, and you bring up that quality, and we get the horsepower rating of 999.2 horsepower at 10,500 RPM, and the highlight of this video is the torque at 541.9 pounds-feet of torque at 9,200 RPM. So unlike my other 2 engine videos with the V8 and inline-6 engine, as we got right here, our biggest problem is the turbo lag. So it idles at around 1500 RPM, increases little by little, and around 7500 RPM is where you see the turbocharger really kick in terms of the power, as the power increases and the torque decreases once it hits red line. If I were to increase it as so to, like, let's say 10,600, boom, turbo has failed, exploded, failure due to knock. As we can see right here, the turbocharger is about to explode, engine knock, and all that good stuff because, well, this game isn't that used to small engines being this powerful in terms of either just power in general or torque. So for this part of the video, I'll give you a listen to what this engine sounds like right here at the manual testing mode by showing off this graph for a little bit and showing the engine as is by doing some fake gear shifts for a little while, and we'll run off the video right then and there. So bring back the graph visibility and give you a listen right now. While it doesn't sound like a true Formula 1 V10, we got the power and the torque, and these freaking headers and the turbocharger just glow white hot at near red line at around 8,000 RPM as you've seen a little bit ago. So that'll do it of automation the car company Tycoon gave with this small, torque-heavy V10 engine. It's quite unfortunate that the red line is set lower than usual due to stress being applied to the turbos. While it's powerful for its size, but you're going to shorten the crap out of your gears when you use this engine into a car because, well, as you've seen, like I said, there's some extreme turbo lag which you pretty much have to bear with it no matter what with how this is set up. And for those who are interested in this type of content, please be sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss out on any videos like this in the future. So this is TRIZE rising up and signing out.